Well, on Fanalysis, we combine the analytics of fantasy sports with the metrics to define betting trends. Join me to break down this week's top plays. We bring in Jared Smith from SportsGrid. Jared, good to have you on the show, man.
Steve, it's a pleasure.
Well, we're going to start things off with a game that I think is really one of the most intriguing games out there.
Yes.
The Browns giving 3 at home against the Bills. The Bills 6-2. The Browns are 2-6. How are the Browns favored in this game?
That's exactly the way you have to look at this game. So if you just take the spread out of it and you just look at what the Browns have done, you look at what the Bills have done, the Browns coming off that devastating loss against the Broncos and Brandon Allen. Bills have been good this year, but if you look a little bit deeper at their wins, their combined record of the teams that they've beaten this year is 9-44. So they haven't really beaten a lot of good teams. And then you look at the other side, this line opened at 2. All of a sudden, the Browns got a ton of sharp action early, pushed it all the way to 3, which is a big number. I don't think it's going to get over 3. I think it'll stay right at 3. It might dip back down to 2.5. But that early sharp push to that key number of 3, I thought was very telling. Desperation spot for the Browns. You cannot lose this game at home and fall to 2-7. And with everything that we've seen with Freddie Kitchens and Baker Mayfield, it just felt like the right spot for Cleveland.
I get that, but we also have to look at what we've seen on the field. Okay.
Yes.
Let's look at some of these numbers. The Browns are 0-3 at home, and they've lost those games by an average of nearly 2 touchdowns. An average of nearly 2 touchdowns. Are there other metrics that give more weight to the Browns?
I really just think it's the strength of schedule and the record. If you look at what Buffalo has done when they've gone up in opponent, especially on the road, that tight game against the Pats I thought was just a little bit misleading. I think New England controlled that game, and they just kind of kept Buffalo at bay and eventually got the win. I just think the fact that Buffalo hasn't really performed well against the good teams. I know Cleveland, record-wise, isn't a good team. Talent-wise, it is.
Of course they've got the talent, but they've also looked like a bit of a mess.
Definitely.
Recently. The thing is with the Browns, we know that they can put it together.
Sure.
The hype train was big on them
Huge.
at the beginning of the season. The question is, will they be able to put it together, and is this the week that it happens?
It has to happen this week, because if it doesn't, I think you're going to start to see Freddie Kitchen firing rumblings.
Oh, well, there's a lot of get this guy fired going around the NFL right about now. All right, let's move on here to the Packers. No team has a home and away line difference like the Green Bay Packers. At home this week, they're giving 5 to the Panthers. Does the public money help steer your thinking one way or the other?
Yes, and the NFL is the one sport where I take the public very seriously, and I tend to fade them. No offense to the viewers at home. I just think in general the NFL is the one sport. When you look at these lines, there is always a ton of square money every week. I think the Packers are one of the teams that are the most overvalued teams in the NFL. Sure. I do obviously respect Lambeau Field, but the line movement in this game was very stark. Opened at +7 for the Panthers. Immediately bet down from that key number of 7. I think it's probably going to close 5, 5.5. If you can find a 6 out there for the Panthers, I would certainly grab it. But it just seems like it's one of those spots. Packers looked, I mean, how bad did they look last week?
On the road.
Yeah, that's true. But was it really a road game against the Chargers?
Well,
not really a great home. It's not really a home game for the Chargers. It's a weird home-road splits with those Chargers games this year.
Yeah, okay. I can appreciate that here, but I've noticed one thing about your method here is really based on what the lines are moving at. Sure. And how they adjust. So do you see this line? If this line jumps to, you jump it on this, I should say, at 5, or do you wait to see even more public money coming in on Green Bay to maybe get a better line?
You know, it's kind of funny because you would have thought with the public being on Green Bay in this game, and it's almost like 70-30, you would have thought that the line would drift back towards the Packers, but because we've seen it move so steadily in the Panthers' direction, very kind of bullish trend of reverse line movement there, where the public is on one side, sharps are on the other, and the line is moving away from the public. I don't think this is going to get back to anywhere near 7. I think if you can get 6 at some point this weekend, that would be a steal for the Panthers. Green Bay, the one stat that I did like in this game, if you want to break it down from an analytics standpoint, Green Bay's rushing defense has not been good this year, over 127 yards allowed per game. Christian McCaffrey has been very good, if not.
I mean, MVP candidate
exactly.
Right now.
And also, Kyle Allen, sneaky good season. Cam Newton on IR this week. I think they rally around. Their new quarterback. Who knows? He might be the quarterback of the future for them.
We might have seen Cam Newton play his last game with the Panthers, but there are at least some metrics and there are some ideas that that will lead you to follow the Panthers as opposed to
Exactly.
just fading the public and the Packers.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I do think I think the Panthers have played really well this year, all things considered. If you were going to tell me that Cam Newton was going to miss basically the entire season, I would have told you that they would have been a sub-500 team. They're in contention for a playoff spot, and I do think a lot of it is the quarterback. I think a lot of it is obviously Christian McCaffrey. In general, though, I think Packers overvalued. I think there is value against Green Bay every week, considering where the public likes to rank them.
All right, home dog here. The Steelers getting 3.5 against the Rams. Pittsburgh has embraced this underdog role in the past few weeks, and they've surprised some teams. Do you see another surprise here?
It's funny, when I was looking at these games, this was the one that jumped out. I like to bet a home dog every week. This was the one home dog that really jumped out at me, and it was because, again, we're seeing a lot of money on the Rams. The one thing that scares me, though, if you are betting Pittsburgh in this game, is LA off the bye. That usually tends to push me off of a game. If I like a side and the opponent is coming off of a bye, I might be a little bit cautious. But the one thing that has kind of pushed me back towards Pittsburgh in this game, I love the way that their defense has played. Minkah Fitzpatrick has been an absolute revelation for them. They stole him away from Miami.
You talk about turning around a defense with one player. I mean, on a roster that has 53 players, one guy shouldn't be that important unless that guy is a quarterback or a running back. But Minkah Fitzpatrick and what he's done with that Steelers defense has really been incredible.
It's almost like Troy Polamalu-like. It's been that impressive. I don't trust Jared Goff on the road against
getting
the
into
defense.
Like sacred ground in Steeler territory. You start talking about 43 there.
But you know what? It's been warranted so far. And if they're able to make it to the playoffs with Mason Rudolph, a quarterback, and of course, he didn't look great in that Miami game in the first half. I give him the benefit of the doubt because kind of a tough spot for him first game back. He looked better in that Colts game, especially in the second half. So I like Mason Rudolph in that home gritty dog spot, and I really don't trust Jared Goff on the road. No Brandon Cooks this week with a suspension. Goff has been I don't, after last year, everyone thought that he was the next big thing. Right. He hasn't followed up with McVay as the head coach. You would expect to be some progression there. There hasn't been.
It's like the Super Bowl has taken all of his superpowers away from him. But you mentioned something about the bye week as well.
Yeah.
Why do you look at the bye week and see such importance in teams coming off the bye?
NFL's a grind, and we're into week 10 now. So this is, a long season for these guys. You think they only play one game a week, so they get a lot of time off. They don't. The bye week is a chance for them to rest and refresh. A good coach, like we always see the Andy Reid trend with coming off of the bye week. His team always plays well.
Right.
A good coach off a bye week should have his team ready to go. I do think the Rams are probably going to be in this game. There's just something about Jared Goff that leans me in the other direction. I'll take the 3 and the hook. The hook at home. So if the Rams win by a field goal, you still get your Steelers back.
If that line moves in either direction, are you off of it?
No, I actually think it's going to move towards Pittsburgh. I think it's going to go +4, +4.5. So I think you actually might get some better value because the Rams are a huge, heavy public side. I do think you'll get some more value with the Steelers if you wait until game time on Sunday.
Okay, so wait until Sunday to place a lot of these bets because that's when the public is going to be throwing their money on.
That's where you get the value.
This is what you love. You
it.
love to fade the public. That's just how you play. That is Jared's top plays of the week. Make sure you check out his other segments here on the leans and his toss-up bets. For Jared Smith of SportsGrid, I'm Steve Overmyer. This is Fanalysis.